China
Okay,
will
no,
get
hang
something
on. Now
in
hold that
next.
thought exactly. Now, China, you're saying, has to show to the world that it is more responsible and more respectful and more reliable and more stable than the Americans. That's what they want to show. We are all suspicious. You are suspicious. I am suspicious. Okay. Now nothing is going to change in 24 hours. But what has Xi Jinping just done in terms of maturity and gravitas and being careful in what he is saying, to at least convince us that he is going to try?
Yeah, let us see whatever he has spoken. One thing is, I frankly speaking, the sound was not that good that I could
Okay, let me read it
grasp
out to you,
everything.
sir, in quote for people, again, for people watching the broadcast as well. I quote, "This year marks the 75th anniversary of China India diplomatic relations. Both nations need to handle our relationship from a strategic and long term perspective. We must also step up to our historical responsibilities to uphold multilateralism, a multipolar world, and more democracy in international institutions, and work together for peace and prosperity in Asia and around the world. The world is transforming. China and India are two of the biggest, oldest civilizational countries. We are the world's two most populous countries and also members of the global south. It is vital to be friends, good neighbors, and amicable neighbors, and the dragon and the elephant to come together." Unquote. Vijay.
Wow, wonderful. You know, these words, if he stands by these words and the next conducts acts of China are on those lines, I think it will be a revolutionary change. And as you said earlier, it is by going by history, it is very difficult to believe they will do, China will do what they are saying. So that element is going to stay. But I think by saying all these things, Xi Jinping has given a challenge to himself to stand true on what he is talking today. If he comes out true and fair on the words which he is speaking, I think that will be a really good takeaway
Okay.
for India.
Okay. So
Prime Minister.
it could be that Xi Jinping Thought 2025 edition states that rather than China's ambition to dominate the world, which will be at some later date, they would hope, that the right methodology right now is to convince all the other countries, the people who have been hit so badly. Because let me tell you, 4 years ago, all of us had been hit so badly by COVID. And we are deeply upset and rightly suspicious of where it came from. And we are deeply concerned that it was hidden, it was buried, and people we knew and loved died because of that. So that was China on the back foot, where the entire world in consensus had to suffer because of something. The reversal is happening, maybe not to the same degree of fatality and global pandemic, but the reversal is happening where the entire world, with almost no exceptions, is finding what is happening in Washington bizarre. So it is Xi Jinping's moment. This summit is that moment. It would have been, there were many, for several years, Xi Jinping had not even left China. Okay. And the only places he was welcome was perhaps Moscow and a few of the Central Asian republics. Nobody else were inviting him. So this summit is something larger. Now, that could be that he is saying that, all right, here's the opportunity when Donald Trump is mucked it up for America, that I can step in and be the mature, seasoned, stable, responsible, reliable, friendly chap. Okay. Should you trust it? The answer is absolutely no. The problem is that you can't trust what Donald Trump said in the morning to be hold true in the evening either. So what do? So you take it as it is. You take it, we'll have to live minute by minute. So do I trust it for the next 5 minutes? Yes. Do I trust it tomorrow morning? No. I trust tomorrow morning on what I see happening tomorrow morning. So let me get General Dwivedi back in. General Dwivedi, so now tone and tenor has been set. Which was the point? Okay. When Narendra Modi as Prime Minister comes back to India, all right, and he has to explain to the people where all of us have been doing everything possible to disconnect from China. Okay. He has to explain to the people that we are going to do business with China because it is in our interest. I think people will agree with that. because they've seen what Donald Trump has done. Okay. So, he is also now going to be asked the question, but how do you do business with China when there is an existential border issue? Now, he has made it very clear, the border is peaceful and stable and we have an agreement. So, has the line been drawn under the sand? Can we move on to the economic matters without having to worry about, at least for the next few months, about the border?
Absolutely, Rishabh. When we look at China-India relations, we have to look at two perspectives. One is tactical and one is strategic. At the tactical level, at this point, I think we need to put the border in some kind of stability. And that's what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stated that currently, and that is fact, Rishabh, that currently line of actual control is stable but sensitive because you can never trust when Chinese can make the next move and encroach whenever they have opportunity. So therefore, when Prime Minister comes back, he comes back with one at least point or scoring point that LAC is stable for time being, means that there is no over tension. That is, I think, point taken. But we have to also see that how de-escalation takes place. That's what the special representative will be working out. And de-induction, well, may not be right on the card. So point I'm trying to state is, yes, for time being, we needn't be overtly concerned about the LAC, which is stable for last 3 years. That's one point that Prime Minister Modi will bring back. Secondly, yes, we need to trade with China. There's no alternative because our supply line needs to be resilient. We are depending upon their magnets. We also need Chinese technology. We need some finance. So that also will be convincing because until we settle a relation with America, let me tell you, America is not Trump. Trump will come and go, and our relationship are very deep rooted. This is a storm that will blow away in next
Okay.
2-3 years time, and we will be back into the.
Okay,
I
hold your
think
thoughts, sir. Developments taking place because the meeting in Tianjin between PM Modi and Xi Jinping has ended. The meeting lasted just over 40 minutes, so the scheduled time, it didn't extend, understandably, because of course Xi Jinping has back-to-back meetings with 30 plus countries that are attending, so understandable. And we are not expecting a statement after the meetings, but we are expecting both the Chinese media and of course PM Modi's social media handles to be posting something shortly, and the MEA will be holding a briefing specifically on this. Because other than the meeting with Xi Jinping, we are expecting PM Modi to only have one other bilateral. He is of course not going to be speaking to Shehbaz Sharif, he is not going to be meeting Kim Jong-un and the others, that's not going to happen. So we are expecting that the meeting with the Myanmarese head of state is potentially likely today in a time slot that's been made available. There might be a few others, but those are uncertain. The meeting with Putin is tomorrow morning, and a separate briefing will happen from there. So let's take it a step at a time and a minute at a time, but the larger tone and tenor is set. This was what the pivot was. The pivot was, can you do business with China openly again? Were you always doing business with China? The answer was yes. But were you doing everything possible not to do business with China? The answer was also yes. Were we all on the trajectory of China plus one, alternate supply chains? That's the trajectory we were on. I won't say the trajectory has halted, but I would say the trajectory has made an open spot for the premise that we'll have to deal with each other, because dealing with the other chaos that is emanating from Washington is far too complex and unpredictable even for India and China to be forced to come together in such a manner. So Xi Jinping has set a very positive note, and I have already delineated for you that the Chinese worldview that revolves around their own ancient historic civilization, at least in a statement coming from the most powerful man in China, says that India is also an equally ancient and historic civilization. That's not a small measure. Does it mean anything? I wouldn't trust it, but I would trust the confluence of interests. That right now it is neither in China's interest or in our interest to have any issues in the border whatsoever. Okay? and to do the trade and make the trade easier, because they are going to be hit and we are going to be hit, and we are all trying to offset that hit at this present moment. So just to put it in reflects that meeting which just lasted just under an hour. Meanwhile, more breaking